Benjamin Ben Aharon Shapiro is an entrepreneur, publicist, journalist, and Orthodox Jewish American writer. Top 20 quotes. Leisure time is only leisure time when it is earned. Otherwise, leisure time devolves into soul-killing lassitude. There's a reason so many new retirees, freed from the treadmill of work, promptly keel over on the golf course. Work fulfills us. It keeps us going. Without a clear moral vision, we devolve into moral relativism, and from there, into oblivion. Freedom of speech and thought matters, especially when it is speech and thought with which we disagree. The moment the majority decides to destroy people for engaging in thought it dislikes, thought crime becomes a reality. Let's assume for the moment that the logic behind President's Day is actually sound for certain presidents. Why not have a separate holiday for Lincoln and one for Washington, as we used to do, before we became so concerned with the "every president gets a trophy" ethos? In actuality, California could be a wonderful place to live. In fact, if you're highly educated and ambitious, you can do quite well here while enjoying the sun and the fun. The only problem: California will then blame you for your success and recommend that all your cash be removed from you. Socialism states that you owe me something simply because I exist. Capitalism, by contrast, results in a sort of reality-forced altruism. I may not want to help you, I may dislike you, but if I don't give you a product or service you want, I will starve. Voluntary exchange is more moral than forced redistribution. The greatest obstacle to the welfare state is not greed but private charity that makes the welfare state irrelevant. The greatest obstacle to re-education of children in the name of the collective is allegiance to a higher power. More than that, the greatest obstacle to the state is God as an actual God above the state. The vast majority of murdered whites are murdered by other whites. That's why there's no national outrage when a white person is killed by a black person. It's not evidence of some underlying black violence problem directed against white people. The separation of church and state was meant to protect church from state. A state that declares religion off limits in public life is a state that declares itself supreme over all religious values. The greatest bulwark against an overreaching government, as tyrants know, is a religious population. That is because religious people form communities of interest adverse to government control of their lives. Religious communities rely on their families and each other rather than an overarching government utilizing force. During the Great Depression, levels of crime actually dropped. During the 1920s, when life was free and easy, so was crime. During the 1930s, when the entire American economy fell into a government-owned alligator moat, crime was nearly non-existent. during the 1950s and 1960s, when the economy was excellent, crime rose again. Every so often, we all gaze into the abyss. It's a depressing fact of life that eventually the clock expires. Eventually, the sand in the hourglass runs out. It's the leaving behind of everything that matters to us that hurts the most. The European style of living is seductive. Fewer hours worked, more hours at the cafe, less concern over self-betterment. But that style of living does not produce a purposeful life. Thanks to presidential immunity and executive control of the Justice Department, there are no consequences to executive branch lawbreaking. And when it comes to presidential lawbreaking, the sitting president could literally strangle someone to death on national television and meet with no consequences. Socialism has no moral justification whatsoever. Poor people are not morally superior to rich people, nor are they owed anything by rich people simply because of their lack of success. Charity is not a socialist concept. It is a religious one, an acknowledgement of God's sovereignty over property, a sovereignty the left utterly rejects. There are times that everyone hates his or her job. Were they freed from the economic consequences of having these jobs, they'd drop out of the workforce. There are only two problems with this strategy. First, someone has to pay for it. Second, it is not the recipe for human fulfillment. There is no greater way to ensure that universities remain a hotbed of leftist thought than to guarantee that professors knight their own successors. But that's basically how the PhD system works, with sitting professors approving the work of would-be professors. Socialism violates at least 3 of the 10 commandments. It turns government into God, it legalizes thievery, and it elevates covetousness. Discussions of income inequality, after all, aren't about prosperity but about petty spite. Why should you care how much money I make, so long as you're happy? Capitalism requires individual responsibility and accountability. People are seen as atomized units in a capitalist system. They are either useful or they are not. They are not seen racially or ethnically or religiously. They consume and they produce, and those are their only relevant characteristics. The left masks its distaste for the Bible's condemnation of homosexuality in a straw-man argument that Bible believers are violent bigots. They are not. Citing the Bible doesn't make you a bigot against human beings. It makes you a bigot against sin, which is a good thing. Thanks for watching the video on our YouTube channel Top 20 Quotes. In our channel there are many more quotes from interesting people. Attracted to see you among our friends.